Okay, well, I don't know why that didn't show properly. Um, okay, let me just make sure I'm live.
Okay, well,
There we go.
I don't know why that didn't show properly. Um,
Okay, everything is going great. So, I am here by myself this morning. Keith will be joining me later. He is in London today. Again, this is my fifth time hosting the show by myself. Well, first time completely by myself, but yes, Keith hasn't been here all week. But I'm enjoying this. It's nice. Keith will be joining me in 10 minutes, and hopefully Stuart will be coming around the corner anytime soon. And also Melissa Conti will be joining me at 10 o'clock today. So there's been a lot of news over the last time we spoke. We only spoke yesterday, and about half an hour after the show ended, a huge breaking news story was released. Just half an hour after we finished. So you may have seen in the news already, but Liz Truss has resigned. Now, the interesting thing about this is the new prime minister is going to be announced next week, which is very soon. I'm not quite sure how it works because a week doesn't seem a long enough time to have a vote amongst Conservative Party members. Maybe it's just a vote among MPs. We'll have to find out. I don't really know what's going to be happening. No one does. Everyone seems to be fairly unsure. But the one thing I am very sure about is Boris is back in the running, which is insane to hear. He's been out of office for 44 days, and there's a chance that he might be back next week. We have here the Daily Mail, the front headline. Boris versus Rishi, the fight for the soul of the Tories is the headline today. So could Boris be back? I don't know. It seems ridiculous to me that there's actually a chance, but there is. There's a chance. It's not the most likely thing to happen, but as many of you may have guessed, I am fairly conservative. I come from a mostly conservative family, and everyone I know who is a Conservative Party member, or just really a Conservative in general, have been saying it's time to bring back Boris. That's what I'm hearing on the ground from just people walking in the street, at the pubs, my own family. So it seems to be that a lot of people do want Boris back. Are there going to be enough votes for him? I don't know, maybe. We'll have to find out and see. This next week is going to be interesting. I mean, Keith yesterday said to me, well, Max, I'm not sure if Liz Truss is going to run again or even make it to Christmas, but as they say, a week is a long time in politics. And he sure was right. I mean, just a few hours later, Liz Truss resigned. So he sure was right about that. But so we may as well get straight into the headlines whilst we wait for Keith to join. Let me bring up BBC papers here. Okay, so the first paper is a Daily Mail. Boris versus Rishi, the sole fight for the Tories. Sorry, the fight for the soul. My bad. As you may know, I struggle with reading. So being by myself and reading the headlines is never great. I mean, when Keith joins, we will read more in depth to the papers, as he usually does. But for now, I'm just going to go briefly through the headlines. The Daily Telegraph. The Daily Telegraph. Boris Johnson tells Tories, I can save the party from election wipeout. Which is interesting because I think he could. And I think he would make a good prime minister. He did last time. Can he do it again? We'll have to find out. Only time can tell. From the Sun, Bojo, I'll be back. That's from the Sun. Ex-PM needs 100 MPs to stand a chance. Rishi is the hot favorite to replace Truss. Now, if you have been watching since Boris resigned, I and Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak were in the race. I very often said I do not like Rishi Sunak. But that's my personal opinion. I don't like him for a few reasons. He didn't want to cut taxes, and Liz Truss did. That's why I said Liz Truss would be a better option. But look what she did. She reversed and U-turned on all of that. So the other reason I don't like Rishi Sunak is his wife's father is a multi-billionaire. And Rishi Sunak is almost a billionaire, and most of that comes from his wife's family fortune. Now, his wife's father, so Rishi Sunak's father-in-law, the reason he's so rich is because he owns the patent, however you want to pronounce it. He owns the patent for the Chinese social credit system. That was his company that helped start the Chinese social credit system. And we might have his son-in-law as our next prime minister. So it's just ridiculous. I still don't want him as prime minister. I do think Boris Johnson would be better, but that's my personal opinion. From the Daily Express, which is usually a government supporting paper, from the Daily Express, could he? ... Will Boris bounce back to number 10? Again, it's very possible. Everyone's questioning it. Is it going to happen? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to comment live, you can. Or once the show's finished, comment what you think will happen. From the Financial Times, Truss quits after 44 days as PM. Now, it's interesting because she's the shortest serving prime minister in all of British history. The person before that served 160 days in office, and the only reason he didn't complete a full term was because he died in office, and that was 100 days longer than Liz Truss. I can't remember what prime minister it was. It was someone from the 1800s, probably someone not very important, but a former prime minister. The Guardian, the bitter end. That's just their headline. They don't go for their usual paper, like format. They're not going for the usual format. But they have a very large picture of Liz Truss announcing that she was resigning, which is interesting to see from the Guardian, and they don't have their usual blue banner, which is strange. From the Metro, Truss quits after just 44 days. The worst prime minister we've ever had is the headline from the Metro. UK's historic shortest serving prime minister. Now Boris planning to make a comeback? ? The Eye, gone in 44 days. I need to apologize to one of our co-hosts, Liza Page. She said that she wouldn't make it to Christmas. I said, no, maybe she'll make it past or even to a full term. I think she would. And I was wrong. Very wrong. But from Mirror, big, bold letters, general election now. Now, let me just turn down my brightness so I get rid of the glare so I can show you how the headline looks for those of you who can't see it. General election now, that's their headline. And I agree, I think we should have a general election. I think a second time in a row where only like 0. whatever% of the population actually voted for Liz Truss. I don't think we should have that again, even though that is the system we have. It would be the same system we had if it was Labour. But nonetheless, I do think there should be a general election. I really do. I think if we don't have a general election, this is going to really piss off a hell of a lot of the public, even conservative voters. From the Daily Star, let us rejoice. If you don't know, this is a running series that the Daily Star have been doing. I say series. They've had this headline for the past 3 days, where the Daily Star's been making lettuce puns about Liz Truss. And this one's very good. Let us rejoice. Which I think is a brilliant headline. I think it's very funny. And then that's the last one. Okay, well, I went through that quick because I didn't go into depth because I struggle with the small print reading. So when Keith joins, he will be doing that. But I did have some more stories. Okay, so we'll go to The Guardian here. Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, and Penny Mordaunt attract early backers for PM as new Tory leadership race begins. This is from The Guardian. They had just pictures of Liz Truss resigning. But those are the 3 people in the race. Let me repeat that. Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, and Penny Mordaunt. Now, if I were to place my bets now, and I've been wrong in the past about this, but if I were to place my bets now, I believe Rishi Sunak will win. I do. I would like Boris Johnson to win, but it's not. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We all know it's not going to happen. But Penny Mordaunt, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. She seems to have been staying quiet. Oh, no, she hasn't. She was in the papers the other day because she got fired yesterday. How did I forget about that? So strange timing for her to be fired and then for Liz Truss to immediately quit straight afterwards. But she obviously knew that she was going to resign. So maybe that firing was out of spite. I mean, the previous chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, resigned, and then the new chancellor has only been chancellor for 2 days, which is interesting because he's going to stop being the chancellor in about 7 days. Once you're chancellor, even if you're in there for a day, you still get the pension from being the chancellor. As soon as you're in that position, you get that pension. Just like Liz Truss was only in there for 44 days as prime minister, she will get the prime minister's pension, even though she was serving an incredibly short term, the shortest term we've ever had for a prime minister. She will get the same pension as if she had done 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however many years. But this new chancellor, which I've forgotten the name of, sort of a backbencher, not backbencher, but not in the front papers, not really that relevant in the news cycle. But he will, even though he will only be chancellor for about 10 days, overall, he will get the chancellor's pension, which I think is very interesting. So I don't know what happened there because she clearly knew she was going to resign the following day. So why did she fire? Or why did the chancellor resign? Sorry, for a new one to come in. That seems a little suspicious to me. I will be honest. I'm sure it seems suspicious to everyone else as well, but I think that was planned. If I'm honest, I think that was planned. But it's my opinion. Don't want to get sued for libel. So what we will do is we'll go to a quick break, we'll go to Scenes in Sussex. That's only 2 minutes long whilst I catch my breath and sort out the lighting issue. As you can see, I kind of look like a ghost. I'm not this pale, usually. So I'm going to go sort the lighting out. But anyway, Scenes in Sussex. Here we go. Okay, so we are back. For some reason, that should have lasted longer. But we have a story here in the Daily Mail, in the second page in. Boris loyalists bring him back, is the quote from the Daily Mail. But here it has an interesting fact. How will the leader be chosen? So I'm going to go through this. To enter the race, a candidate must secure the backing of at least 100 Tory MPs by 2 p.m. on Monday. So that's, what day is it? Friday, Saturday. So that's 3 days. Oh, 4. 4 days' time, they must have 100 MPs backing them by Monday at 2 p.m. So can he get 100 backseaters by Monday? I think so. Conservatives do have a majority, so that shouldn't be too hard. Those who do will take part in a I'm not sure what that says. Okay. So interesting. I just read this little bit. This has made me laugh. So, how are they going to be elected? If both, so it will go down to 2 MPs in the running, and then once there are 2, they will be put to a vote at the Conservative Party members online, which I'm sure will have nothing wrong with it. Voting online sounds like a very good idea. Being sarcastic, that's a terrible idea, and it's very not easy to hack, but likely. If both remain, 180 party members, 180,000 party members will vote online from 11 a.m. on the 28th of October. The winner will be announced later that day. Now, October the 28th is a good day. October the 28th is a special day because that is my birthday. So, a week today, we will have a new Prime Minister. Friday next week. It's Friday now, and Friday next week, we'll have a new Prime Minister once again. This is just a ridiculous situation we're in. I mean, no one is fit for the job, really. I mean, Boris is the least worst option, in my opinion. He's still not great. The least worst option would be Kemi Badenoch. She is a current backbencher MP. She is incredibly good at her job. And I think we really should have her as our Prime Minister. She's very good at her job. She is a black woman, which has nothing to do with anything, because I hate diversity hiring. It's a terrible, terrible idea. Hiring based on race. I don't know why we do that. We do diversity hiring, and so do the police, and the MI6 even do diversity hiring. The government does diversity hiring. Your local shops, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, they all do diversity hiring. Hiring based on race is a terrible idea. It shouldn't be done. It is a very illiberal thing to do in a supposedly liberal country. But I think she would be very good for the job, not because of a diversity hire, not just because she's black and a woman. She's actually competent, which is extremely rare to find a competent person in government. So I think she would be quite good. And it would be the left like to criticize people in the Conservative Party for being racist. They call Boris Johnson racist because he's a white male. He's a straight white male. Liz Truss is racist because she's a white woman. All these people are racist because of the color of their skin. It's a ridiculous argument, I know, but people make it, and it's stupid. But with Kemi Badenoch in office, she would be immune from those criticisms because she is both black and a woman. Interestingly enough, the far left, the Corbynites, like to call everything racist, but Labour have never had a woman or a black person as their head of the party. At the moment, it's Keir Starmer. They've never even had a woman, and the Conservative Party have had 3. Never had a Conservative MP, a female Labour MP. Never had that. Never had anything like it. So, kind of ridiculous, if you ask me. Considering they're the ones always going on about diversity. I would like to say the Conservatives don't hire on diversity, they hire on competence, but they picked Liz Truss. So I guess that one's thrown out the window. We've been going for 25 minutes now, and Keith hasn't joined. Don't know where he is. What was I going to say? Oh, yes, the other person who I think would be good for the job. Controversial. Just a bit of a warning. Controversial one. I think who would make a very good MP is... Oh, and Keith is here. Let me join here. Let me add him in. Give me a second. Can I add you into the stream, Keith? Don't know why it's not letting me.
To join. Does that help?
Hello, Keith. Can you let yourself in? Oh, there we go.
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me? No? No sound.
Oh, hello. Yes, I can hear you now.
Right.
There we go.
Takes a second or two, I think. So here we are, a little late in East London, and I do apologise for that. But it's one of the iniquities of modern life is that the train companies and the bus companies can be 5 minutes late, and they say they're on time. But my bus was 5 minutes late this morning, which means I missed the first train, and that put me back 15 minutes. So here I am, arriving at my destination half an hour late because the bus was 2 minutes late. Naughty, 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 naughty. How are you, Max?
Good. I'm just having some issues with my computer. There we go. I sorted them out, I think. Can you still hear me? Good.
Yes, I can. We're in contact, I think.
So it's been good this morning. It's been going quite well. I've gone through the headlines. I've got some stories in the paper that I've gone through. It's been quite good this morning. I was hoping for Stuart to be in, but he hasn't showed.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that we can say with some justification is that going back over the last 3 or 4 months, we actually put forward the scenario at one stage of Boris returning. And weren't we clever? Because at least it looks as if now he stands a fighting chance of doing that. Although Rishi Sunak apparently is the favourite in the internal polls, nonetheless, Boris is a scrapper, and I think that possibly that the people that I've been saying anyway, are complete and utter dolts, are realising that their jobs are on the line and they need a leader. Now, Rishi Sunak, first of all, was able to state his case in the recent when he ran against Liz Truss. So everybody knows what he stands for. But also on this program, we actually covered his first 2 budgets. And he is a very fine orator. I will give him that. Very typical politician. But his first 2 budgets were smoke and mirrors. And I personally don't have a great deal of faith that you will be jumping much from Liz Truss to Rishi Sunak and that you'll find much difference. So perhaps, despite the fact that he's a naughty boy, that he can get in people's hair and so on, is perhaps Boris is the best option, certainly for the Conservatives. There, how's that start?
My opinion on Rishi Sunak. I don't like him because his father-in-law is the person who owns the patents for the Chinese social credit system. So
yes,
seem a little bit suspicious of that.
You're not at all happy with that, are you? And I don't blame you. I'm a bit worried, to say the least, about. Oh, good morning, Donna. Just come here because I want you to know, Max, that I come into the White Hart every morning and see the beautiful girls. And here I've got an equally beautiful girl. I've known her for almost 7 years. And every time I go to sort of say how much I love her, she rebuffs me.
Morning, Max.
She's a lovely sense of humour, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to come into this West London place and be met by Donna. Thank you. See, I'm being looked after here as well as there.
It's we got Jane here this morning.
Oh, good. Jane is a really wonderful lady, and I think that I don't mind saying it lots of times, because one of the things that I've been saying to the delegate that I've been consulting with this week is that people forget very quickly. You can say something to somebody, and within minutes they've forgotten what you said. So the adage in the communications industry is tell them, remind them that you've told them, and remind them that you've reminded them. So I like to remind people just what a wonderful crew the White Hart Hotel has got. They really, really are first class and really, really lovely to come in and meet. And I'm glad it's replicated here in West London.
Yeah, well, it's nice to hear. I wasn't expecting that. Usually my first thought when I think of London.
So you lead me.
Yeah, usually my first thought when I think of London is unfriendly.
Sorry?
My first thought when I think of London is unfriendly.
Yes, actually, um, there are lots of things that people put out on social media, on regular news sites, and so on and so forth. But I quite like to get the temper from what I see. Now, if I can give you an example, is right next door to us in Lewis, we've got the newspaper shop, Martin's. And when people, yes, there you go, we get the paper there. When you go in first thing in the morning, which I do, I look at the piles of newspapers because it tells you which newspapers are popular at any given moment from the numbers that they order each day. And I must say that it seems that the right wing or right of centre, let's put it not right wing, newspapers such as the Mail, such as the Telegraph, such as the Times, are in the ascendant at the moment. And the people who are taking everything lightly or making fun of things like the Mirror and the Sun and so on and so forth, is people are shunning a wee bit at the moment. Now, on top of that, our other topic of conversation is, are people going back to work? All this week, the undergrounds have been fairly full. Kind people have given up their seats for me. This morning, I could pick a seat wherever I wanted. There was virtually nobody, and I wonder whether we are slowly settling into the idea of a 4-day week.
I would like to say yes, but the answer is no. I don't think people can afford a 4-day week at the moment. Whilst it would be ideal and very nice, it's not a reality for another decade or two, I guess.
Oh dear, it means that we're both going to have to come to work on a Friday.
Well, yeah, I am at work on a Friday. We both are already, yeah.
Yes. Actually, one of the other things, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm just having some red herrings at the moment, but you and I are both entrepreneurs. We work very hard and we don't know just exactly what we're going to make for it or how successful we're going to be, and we have to keep on at it. The government has said as a policy and started to moot in schools that youngsters should think of becoming entrepreneurs. But what do? The moment that these youngsters come out of school and try to start their own business and so on, they are met with a barrage of bureaucracy, of things that they've got to do. And a lot of them give up and say, to hell with this, I'll go and work for somebody else, let them do it.
Yeah, so
it's so crazy, the people that we've got in charge. Crazy.
about that, actually, I took business studies and they never taught you anything about that. They only ever taught you the theoretical, oh, if you made this much money and you had this many employees and you paid them this much, how much money would you have at the end of the day? It was all that. It was just maths. It was never the actual practical side of it. It was always the theory, which I didn't like.
Let me ask this of you, Max, because I haven't, so I don't know what your answer is going to be. But you are just out of college. This is your first job. Is it anything like the vision that you had for leaving college and getting a job?
Yes, but I was incredibly lucky.
So actually, being in work, the practicalities are the sort of thing that you anticipated.
Yes, yeah. Well,
because I always think
this
that in
came
this
through my
organization, we're all slightly mad.
a little bit, but this all came through my college placement at DV8. I went to DV8 in Brighton. That was a very fun college. It would have been. I'm not going to say anything bad about it because they got me here, but they're a fun college. They are. It's right in the center of Brighton, at Churchill Square. It's fun. You got all sorts of things to do around you. I used to go sit on the beach and eat my lunch. It was a great college, and it got me the placement here. So if I hadn't have got put here by Louis, and if he hadn't have contacted you, right now I would be working at Sainsbury's or something, or at the co-op, and I would be saying, "This is exactly how I envisioned it to go, because this is how it happens for everyone. But this is my vision of what I wanted to do." And I said, "That's what I want to do, but straight out of college, that's a bit far-fetched. I would love to do it, but I'm going to probably end up working at Sainsbury's." But I didn't, and I'm here.
One of the things I think that is a plus about Mirador Television is that there's nobody working with us or for us who isn't slightly mad. I mean, in some instances, totally and utterly mad. They follow the leader. Yeah. I'm completely and utterly mad. But I think that makes life more creative for us, and we actually make a bigger impact on our surroundings by being mad, rather than just doing things as if we were a nice little organization. That's my view. Yeah. So you're surrounded by madmen.
Yeah. I'm surrounded by, not to sound too rude, but a lot of old people. Well, I'm the only young one.
Yeah. I mean, it is, to be quite honest with you, we have said to at least a dozen young people, "Look, come on over and let's just give you a try." "Oh, yes. That's very nice, very nice." And they never turn up. And we go and we see them, and they are continuing to be waiters and bar people and so on. Totally honourable profession, nothing against that. But they don't want to do anything else. And so we've tried very hard to get youth in, and we will continue to try hard. I mean, there are a couple of people on the edge, I think. For instance, the lovely young guy that you're trying to make a program with about health. He needs a kick up the backside. But other than that, I think that he would do very well and bring an element of youth to the organization.
Yeah. Well, that's been put on hold because I fractured my wrist, but I'm hesitant to go back because it's a lot of work, very tired, and I'm not actually going to see any change unless I really start going every day. So it's going to be really, it's going to be really tiring, really tough, and then I got to do work on top of that, and then camera work, and then the long journey I have. Hopefully, I'll have my bike soon. I've got it, but it needs to be fixed.
Right now, I think that it's a Friday morning, Max, and it's nice to have a little chat before actually. I doubt if I'll still be with you when Melissa comes on, and you can find out what's happening in the United States and how they are viewing what's going on here. But is on a Friday, we're able to sort of ruminate just a little bit. And I think that one of the things that we should be able to talk about is you have about 3 projects under your wing. And what we really got to do is to sort out a bit more time for you to complete them. But they are exciting projects, I think. Already, we've got Sarah Fitz-Hayes, who is absolutely great television. I mean, she's as funny as the rest of us, and buoyant and lovely, and her work is so different to the art that we're used to. But also, you've got a couple of other things on the go, which eventually will turn into programs for people to see on this channel.
Eventually, yeah, definitely.
So we're not
how long it's going to take, I don't know.
Sorry?
How long it's going to all take, I don't know.
Well, in some ways, a television channel takes a long time to get cracking. I mean, this one has been going since 2016 in various places, and it's had the hurdles such as lockdown and having to move from its studios and so on and so forth. But it's gone quite a long way in the 6 months. Is it 6 months? April, May, June, July, August. Yes, it's 6 months since we actually moved into the White Hart. And I think we've come a long way in that time. Let's be not generous and give us a year to get everything right. And if we keep on going this way, then I think that we'll have a product that people will not only enjoy watching, but be proud of, because it's coming out of Lewis. And it goes to the world. That's the point.
Yeah, it does. That's a great point as well.
Right. Now, from the home of Tom Paine, for those people who don't know that, and for those people who don't know who Tom Paine is he is the bloke that evaluated a philosophy called the rights of man. In other words, the divine right of kings and the rule by the few was not good enough. That mankind should have a say in their destiny. And he went off to the Americas, to the colonies, and he told the people there, listen, the king and the prime minister are the only two authorities in the United Kingdom. It wasn't the United Kingdom then, but in Great Britain. What if you're expecting anything special, you're not going to get it. And so they said, okay, bugger this. We're paying our taxes for nothing. And so he created the Declaration of Independence and the War of Independence. In other words, he lost us the colonies, but he started perhaps one of the greatest nations on earth. And he was some.
Yeah, can I say a point about that? The Americans revolted over the tax issue. America revolted and seceded from the Commonwealth for a war because of a 4% tax.
Oh yes, actually, I mean,
Where's
you're
that
right.
now? We're getting taxed. Well, we're not, but some people are getting taxed 45%. Where's the revolution? I'm not calling for a revolution.
But of course, the point that the colonists were making is that they were being taxed. The tax was coming back to Britain, and very little, if anything, was being spent on them in the colonies. And they were in a position of having to develop a new world, and we weren't giving them any help. And that's what really peed them off. Now, in some ways, it's tax that undid Liz Truss. I mean, tax is always at the heart of dissent. People recognize that we need to be taxed to pay for certain things, but nobody ever likes the level of tax that they're having to pay. And of course, one of the really favorite issues is to try and avoid paying tax. It's a national sport. And so the gamekeepers put in place by the government come after us. And as you know, you have to keep every little receipt to make sure that they don't dump on you.
Yeah, I am. I'm keeping every receipt.
I saw a little blip there. I don't know whether that's Melissa coming on the line.
No, it wasn't. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, right.
I clicked something. I don't know what I clicked.
Okay, well, it's coming up to the weekend. What have you got in store?
What have I got in store?
Yes, what are you going to play for us now? Or should we go down to the park and give ourselves a breathing space? Because the moment I came on, you've been doing a lot of talking. I came on and did a lot of talking. Is perhaps what we need to do is to take a breath before we go on to other things and give our viewers a minute's respite. Do you think we should go to the park?
I think we should. All right, here we go.
Okay, are we back? I
Yes, we
blanked out my screen because I was just looking to see what we got there. And one of the things that we like to play, Max, I think, unless you've got any other ideas, is Like Lewis, which I've got in front of me.
Yes, I do like
Shall we
that.
do Like Lewis? Because we are very proud. We are able to be critical of Lewis because we live here and we work here. But actually, we're quite proud of it. And I think it would be nice to let viewers see what Lewis was all about and still to some extent is. Shall I
Alright.
start it or shall you?
You start it because you have all the original files. Because
Right.
you're using your computer. I'm using my one, which doesn't have any of them really.
Right. Here we go.
Keith, you're muted again.
That evil little man who laughs at the end there is people call it a cackle. I always, when we first instituted that, I always thought that it was something that would get people's attention, and by God, does it. Max, just a couple of things arising from that I Love Lewis is, as you can see, lots of history in this town. And we are showing now and again episodes from our documentary, The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town, which is still available on the internet. You just look up Bloody and you'll find it. And it was seen nationally on the Together channel. And about 6 months after it was first launched, it was shown on something like the 3rd of January because they didn't have anything else to show. And we got 2.5 million viewers of that particular episode, which isn't bad, not bad at all. People are vaguely aware, although they don't remember, of course. But the other thing is that in that clip, you can see a bit of the bonfire celebrations. Now, in our little group of people, we've got Kevin Kramer, who is the expert on bonfire. And from time to time, we get Mick Symes in, who is the other expert, and they disagree on a number of things about bonfire, as one would in history. But they both will throttle me. But perhaps I should just say we are preparing to broadcast bonfire on November the 5th. And we will start about 6 o'clock in the evening, which is when things get going. And is anywhere in the world who wants to watch this extravaganza can watch. But it is an extravaganza because way back in the early 1500s, Queen Mary, Bloody Mary, who took over from Henry VIII, wanted to revert Britain to Catholicism, Roman Catholicism. And she burned at the stake anybody who got in her way. And she burned 17 people in the center of Lewes. And so the people of Lewes were very resentful about this. And they started to celebrate some form of bonfire 50 years before the traditional one, which is Guy Fawkes trying to blow up the House of Commons. So that's why we are much bigger and, for that matter, much better in Lewes on November the 5th. It is a stunning spectacle. So do tune in because we'll bring it to you and let you see what goes on. My final note about that is that you and I often talk about what I call logarithms, algorithms, whatever, which actually stop you from showing things on the internet. And in that clip, there is a picture of the War Memorial. Now, this was raised in about 1922, after the First World War. And it is a beautiful statue. But it was turned down at one stage by Facebook as being obscene. And we couldn't figure out why until we started to take a look closely at it. And the architect or the sculpture has the breast of one of the ladies at the base, just slightly showing through a scarf. And the Facebook deemed that as being obscene. So there you are. There are one or two little things in that clip that we just saw that give us some sort of background to Lewes that you won't find elsewhere.
Can I say something briefly? There was a similar thing at a previous media company I had work experience at. And I'm not going to name names, but someone at the company So basically what happened, a video got taken down, like what happened here. A video got taken down because it had obscene content in it. The AI picked up an image of male genitalia in the video, and everyone at the company was going, "What the hell? There was nothing in there like that. What is going on?" So they contacted YouTube to figure out what the AI had seen, and one of the individuals that worked for the company, the AI picked up him as male genitalia. The AI thought he was male genitalia because of the way he looked. Because he was completely hairless, he was bald, and it just picked it up as that. I mean, he was wearing a slightly skin-colored shirt. It was like a cream-colored shirt or jacket, whatever. And YouTube took the video down, and they eventually contacted him and figured out what it was. And I did some research. I just Googled him and found what he looked like, and boy, was that Google AI right. He did look like
I mean,
that.
one of the things that I have consistently said on this channel is that we rely too much on computers. Computers are meant to make things to help us perform our functions, not perform the function instead of, because the computer has no discretion whatsoever. And I mean, the worst is the banks. The banks relying upon. Now, if I can just give you an example, my energy company, I wanted to change from a standing order, from a direct debit to a standing order. So I emailed them and said, what account do I send this to? About 10 days later, I got a reply apologizing because they'd been so busy, and then they gave me the information. 2 days later, they sent me a note saying they were sending my account to a collection agency. Now, that was the computer that did that. They have no discretion whatsoever, and it's crazy, absolutely crazy. And that goes on right throughout the financial sector, and it's got to stop. Once we get a settled government, this is the sort of thing that they got to look at, because, I mean, look at me. First of all, I'm of an age, and secondly, I'm vulnerable. And these things upset older and vulnerable people. Do the companies do anything about it? No, they do not. It's about time that we kick their ass, really kick their ass, because it is obscene, to say the least. That's a good word, isn't it? Obscene, yes. Your friend actually, or this Facebook and YouTube thing, obviously is they do not control their own computer stuff. Full stop.
No, it's all AI based. But the reason it is because there's something like 10,000 hours a minute uploaded to YouTube. So a human can't go through and verify all of it. They need some sort of robot to do it because it's physically impossible.
But my view is that you put things in place, and then a couple of months later, at the very outside, you should actually go and review to see whether it's doing its job. But they patently don't. I mean, the same thing is happening with the banks now, and the way they send out reminder notices and all the rest of it, as was being done 5 years ago. Now, times have moved on. Things change, but the computers in these organizations do not. And whatever the IT people are doing is they're not keeping up to date with society and the needs of it. That's my point.
Yeah. Sometimes I really do hate technology. I really do.
Yes.
It does more benefits than negatives, but it's just so stressful sometimes.
Max, by the way, I have invited Melissa.
You have.
So you can expect her about 10 o'clock. I'm not sure whether between now and 10, whether I'm going to have a full another 30 minutes or whether I'll be sort of cut off as my young friend from Nigeria comes in. Just to explain to people what I'm doing in West London is from time to time, from my mighty knowledge, I'm asked to do some training for people from overseas. And I have a delightful young Nigerian lady who works for the electricity company there, believe it or not. Nigeria is a vast country. It's a huge country, and it's got something like 300 million people. So electricity is very key to it. And they need to let people know right throughout this vast country what on earth is going on with their power organizations, much the same as we should be doing here. So she's come to London and to my clutches so that I can give her some tips and hints about how to get their message out. So she will come barreling in at some stage, and then I shall abandon you. But until that, Max, you've got to put up with me, boy.
Okay, I'll put up with you. Yeah.
Now,
just wanted to say one quick thing, two quick things. I'm really sorry I have to say this now. Could you email me Melissa's email so I have it permanently? And at 11:30, I'm going to give you a phone call immediately after I finish. Just wanted to get those two things out of the way.
Yes, fine. Okay, I shall expect to hear from you. I'm waiting for us to have a big gap because I'll have to go away to get her number to email to you. But as long as you don't actually want it this morning, then well, I should be able to. The next time that we actually put up a program, a video, then I will dive away from where I am at the moment.
Yes,
and get
just
it,
in case. That's all.
Yeah,
just in case. That was all. Anyway, did you see the Daily Star headline?
No, I looked here this morning. I think it was about their lettuce, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Why don't you read it out to us?
Okay, let me just get up BBC Papers. Give me a moment. Okay. Oh. Okay, from the Daily Star. Liz Truss is gone. Lettuce rejoice.
Just to explain to viewers who don't see the Star and perhaps don't follow the Star, is about a week ago, they said that they had bought an iceberg lettuce and they wanted to see which would actually rot first, the lettuce or Liz. Gosh, how soon we've
well, just so everyone knows, the lettuce is still fresh.
Yes, the lettuce is still fresh, and in fact, I mean,
in fact, edible.
She has gone. I mean, I have mixed feelings about this, as you know. She may not have been. I mean, she actually stormed in with ideas of reform, and I have warned people actually, and some people look at me and say, "Keith, don't be so cynical." The one thing that politicians hate is the word reform, and she was a reformer, and they all ganged up, and boy, were they going to get her, and they got her. Now, I'm not defending her. I think that she handled things very badly. She didn't have the capacity to handle a bad situation, but nonetheless, she did try to reform. The people that are going to take over, whoever they may be, will settle back into what I consider to be the bad old ways, and that nothing will be reformed in what is basically a very creepy and ancient system of governance that we have. Yes, she's gone. But I hope that the spirit of change doesn't go with her. I fear that it will.
Yeah. Do you think it'll be... Sorry. Do you think it will be Boris?
Well, Boris is the comeback king. Everybody puts him away for dead, and he comes back. But the way that people, the MPs think is they don't think what's good for Max, what's good for Keith, what's good for Lewis, what's good for Britain, what's good for the United Kingdom. What they think is, let me make sure that I've got a job at the next election. So they've got skewed thinking. And I think that probably that there are people who are getting together and saying, no, we cannot have another change. We've got to get it right this time. And there are merits on either side. Rishi Sunak, we know what he set out his case because he was in the race against Liz Truss for the leadership. By the same token, we do know that for all his faults, and he's a naughty boy, but Boris has got leadership qualities which other people don't have. And on the international stage, he is very powerful. It's on the domestic stage that he gets his knickers into a twist and gets us all excited. So I think they've got to decide: are we going to actually look for leadership for the last 2 years of this Parliament's life, or are we actually going to try to calm things down and hope like hell that the electorate will forget and put us back in? I don't know how they're thinking, to be quite honest with you. I know how I would think. But how they're thinking, I have no idea.
I would like to tell you something interesting. So, I'll leave you on this one point, and then we'll go to a clip. But Kwasi Kwarteng, the former Chancellor of Exchequer, resigned just 2 days before Liz Truss resigned, right?
Yes.
And then a new person was in place. I've forgotten his name because it's been such a short amount of time. Jeremy Hunt.
Yeah.
So Kwasi Kwarteng resigned, and Jeremy Hunt has immediately taken his position. Even though he'll only be in that position for 12 days in total, he will still get the full pension of having that job. Even if you're only in there for 24 hours, you still get the pension from that. So it seems a little bit suspicious to me that Kwasi Kwarteng quit, installed a new person, and then suspiciously, oh, Liz Truss resigns. Oh, what a coincidence. Who knew that was going to happen? But I will say that's a very interesting thing to...
You've heard me in full rant say that the expenses situation, MPs look after themselves. And that's the sort of thing that is in place and should not be in place. It should be changed. That's where reform should take place. But, you know, if you've got a job, Max, where you're stuffing your pockets full of good things, including cash, are you going to change it? No. Expect this lot to change? No. And if Labour say, oh, we would reform, they won't, because they are as keen. I'm sorry, my theme has been a curse on all their houses. 650 of them are bloody useless. Let's get rid of all 650. And strangely enough, the movie the other night about Brewster's Millions was on. None of the above.
There's someone behind you.
Good morning. Not yet, no. She's about 10 o'clock. She gets here. Shall I come along and let you know when she's here?
Just email. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. Another nice young man who is in charge of the training situation here, and our young delegate is due at 9:30, but she never gets here until 10. So I'm just reassuring him that we're okay with everything. But you see, one of the things about this television station is we like people popping in and out. We like people walking through the hotel. And actually, Max has collared 2 or 3 very interesting people over the months that we've been in the hotel. Tell them about Father Christmas. Max.
Yeah, we had this guy who had a great big bushy beard, and he was dressed in Victorian clothes for whatever reason. And he came in and he sat down with us, and I asked him what he does for a living, because he was an American. He said, well, I'm an optician, but I'm retired now. But I have had a second job for the last 30 years. Guess what job it is? I go, I don't know. What job? He goes, for the last 30 years, I've been a professional Santa Claus.
I have to say that the Americans do celebrate Christmas rather well. And one of the things that they do for charity, somewhere I've got a clip and I'll try and dig it out for Christmas, is Melissa doing SantaCon. And in New York, all the young people go absolutely wild. They dress up as Santa Claus and they try to hit as many pubs as they possibly can. And in buying a beer at the pub, the money goes to charity. So they actually raise quite a lot of money doing what they like doing, and that is going to pubs and dressed up to celebrate Christmas. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Well, do you want to go to a clip from your computer whilst
Yes,
I have you here?
right. You'd like me to look at what I've got here, would you?
Yes. So,
All right.
what we can say.
Let me see. I've got something here, Max, that says the first program, but part 2 of the first program. And I think that goes back to something like 2007, 2017, 2018, and what we were putting out. Shall we take the chance and play just a little bit of it anyway?
Yes, that'll give me some time to pop off quickly.
Yeah. There's been a few new additions to the town over the summer. Whole raft of new eating and sleeping places cropped up in Lewes over the summer. Most of them were in Cliff, but Coat is at the top of the town on the High Street. So far, I've only been in for a cup of coffee, but they've been very welcoming, and I suppose that it looks as if it'll do very well. Give it a try. Then there is Aqua at the bottom of the town, attached to the Premier Inn, also new. I've been in there as well, and they were equally as welcoming, and didn't mind that I just popped in for a cup of coffee and not a full meal. But Fuego is something else. I've only looked in through the front door. It's a new concept, of course, of cafe bar. Not new in the continent, I suppose, but not terribly frequent over here. And I haven't been in there because I'm a bit afraid I might go for the bar rather than the coffee. But one day I'll give it a chance. Anyway, some places new in Lewes over the summer, and places for you to try. I'm here in the village of Charleston, a charming, picturesque British village with a population of 500.
That's not Charleston, Keith. This is Charleston, South Carolina. A charming, picturesque village with a population of 120,000 in the United States.
What about this town, Boston? 120 miles north of London in England. Population, 35,000.
That's not Boston. This is the real Boston. Boston, Massachusetts, population 4 million.
What about this lovely little city, York? I suppose you Yankees have one of those too.
Yes, we do. Welcome to the new and improved York.
here's one you can't beat, London. That's London in England. Population, 8 million.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Join us for a journey to different cities with the same name.
A new show comparing big American cities with the small British and European towns that share the same name.
We never should have let you win that little war, Melissa.
Actually, Keith, we beat you at 2 little wars.
What's in a name?
Coming soon to public television.
Little devil on my shoulder, telling me to hold on, telling me to go strong. The decisions that I'm going off, late nights, bright lights, wanna see the city tonight. Maybe I'll do it twice, I say fuck it tonight. That's right, little devil never seems to keep it on the level. Don't care if I'm going to hell, no. I'm gonna do the little devil's I'm gonna do the little devil's deeds, okay? Campaign, I can't stop, no way. Gonna check in, really check out as soon as I feel okay. Late nights, bright lights, wanna see the city tonight. Maybe I'll do it twice, maybe I'll say fuck it tonight. Yeah, that's right, little devil never wants to keep it on a level. Don't care if I'm going to hell, no. I'm gonna do the little devil's deeds. Oh, 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 oh.
Okay, look at me.
Do the little devil's deeds.
Okay, back again. Good.
All right.
Okay, keep going.
Well, the funny thing is that when you see it on television, they look at the camera and they say funny.
This was what the prison looked like when the British Admiralty bought it to house the prisoners of war.
So they bought the prison and they made many adaptations to it. One of them, interestingly, they took the doors off the cells.
Good for freedom of movement, but not so good for privacy. The doors survive in the local museum, all that remains of the prison's interior. The prisoners were separated. The enlisted men, mostly Finns, Swedes and a few Ireland Islanders, were put into the prison, 3 to a cell. But it was a different situation for the Russian officers.
The officers, very different case. They were billeted out amongst the gentry families of the town and surrounding areas, not just Lewis. They had freedom of movement, they had freedom of association, and they generally joined in, if you like, middle to gentry class society. So we have an account, for example, of the officers being very popular dancing partners at local balls because they could waltz so much better than Englishmen. There we go.
Not all the Russians lost themselves in the pleasures of the waltz. Many, like Georg.
He sat on the bank while the river still chattered onto him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world. That was the excitement that Mole experienced in the story Wind in the Willows. And indeed, rivers large and small everywhere all have many stories to tell. The River Ouse that flows through Lewis is no different. In fact, for much of the town's history, it has played an important part. Today, the river carries nothing but pleasure craft. But for a long time, it was a busy, bustling port. About a mile upstream from here is the village of Hamsey. It sits on a triangle of land which splits the river as it curves down towards the town. Hamsey is barely a village today. A few houses with the 13th century church standing in splendid isolation. But Hamsey was a Saxon port in the pre-Norman era. Historians estimate that over 1,000 people lived here, populating a port that saw ships sail up the Ouse to trade goods. There is no doubt that the Normans had a bit to do with its demise. The area was handed over to a Norman lord. But the community was attacked by an enemy it couldn't stop. An army of rats, which disembarked from one of the visiting ships, went ashore and infected the village with bubonic plague, the Black Death.
That was one of our very first programs, and a couple of interesting things there is how things change, because there are some restaurants that were opening like 5 years ago, which no longer exist. Things do change, and yet there are other things that are just the same as they were back then. So that was, I think, a very reflective program of its time. Not everything in this is now accurate, but it gave you some idea of what Mirador was like in 2017, thereabouts.
So Mirador hasn't really been around that long.
No, it's only been 5 years. But I do remind people that basically the technology which we're using today it only came into effect really in 2015 or thereabouts. And Mirador started because of this technology. And I sat outside with my phone. I sat outside Cafe Nero on the high street at 5:30 in the morning and passed on to people what was going on. And I would talk to the people in the cafe and I would talk to people who passed in the street. And that's how we really got started. And that technology, everybody now does everything on their phone. But that technology is quite new. And in fact, it was Melissa, our colleague in the United States, who actually tipped me off to it. And she said, Facebook have started this new technology, but it's only available to film stars and the people in Hollywood at the moment. But it's bound to be made available to everybody eventually. And about 6 weeks or 7 weeks later, sure enough, we were able to do that. And it changed the face of how people could broadcast. I think there was a rash of people doing all sorts of things. I'm happy to say that we're one of the people that, despite everything, lockdown, trauma, bad economies, etc., we are still here. We're still hanging in. And if we can last for that 5 or 6 years, I'm damn sure we can last for another decade. So get stuck in, my boy. You've got a job on your hands long after I pass this mortal coil.
Oh gosh. Well, I think that there have been a lot of interesting headlines this morning. Everything has been about Liz Truss resigning in the news recently. But it'll be interesting to talk to Melissa later.
I just had a little flash that Boris has taken over. Now I don't know which poll this is, so I don't know. I can't give the veracity. There's a little flash that Boris has taken over Rishi as the favourite.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me. I'll find that. Huh.
Now, as I say, that was only one poll, and it was only a news flash, so I don't know any details. Treat it with some suspicion, but it is interesting that somebody somewhere has decided to make something like that public.
Right. Okay. I'll have a look at that. Can't seem to find it. Well, I'll have a look in a moment. But do you think if Boris is in the running, he would win? Because it's Conservative Party members voting, and the majority of Conservative Party members want Boris back. If he is really in the running, I think he has a very, very good chance of winning.
I think that people are all huddled in the back rooms at the moment in the light of what's happening, trying to decide who they strategically want. I don't think Boris is a shoo-in. I think Rishi stands as good a chance because all sorts of things that don't mean anything to you and I, and we make the basic assumption that they're going to do what's best for the country, which is rubbish. They won't. They'll do what's best for themselves. I think it could be either of them, depending on what goes on in the back rooms, the smoky rooms of power.
Yeah. That's if he even decides to run, which I'm sure he will win. Because, of course, he wants to be back in office. I mean, who wouldn't be? Well, Liz Truss doesn't want to be back in office.
Well, one of the things I think that may be going on in people's minds is because of what's happened with the Conservative Party and kicking Boris out and so on and so forth, is they've really been up their own backsides and trying to figure out what's good for the party and what's good domestically and so on. And they've lost track of some of the nasty things that are happening internationally. And that's where Boris's strength is. He was handling the war in Ukraine extremely well. He was handling Brexit very well. Now, those are areas where we don't know where we're at the moment. Nobody was looking at things, and yet those are the areas that are the biggest threats to our society. Can you imagine that some of the MPs and cabinet ministers decide to reverse Brexit and go back into the EU? Horror, horror, horror. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're an in or an out. Is a big change like that is going to have a huge effect on our way of life. And what happens if, as he keeps threatening, is Vladimir does let loose some sort of rocket that's going to hit us, or for that matter, hit the United States. Can you imagine what's happening? And we need strong leadership in that area to make sure that our foreign policy is kept on track. So those are some of the things that may be going through the minds of MPs rather than our economy and so on and so forth, where basically we have to let the Bank of England struggle with most of that.
Yeah. Well, am I cutting out at all, by the way?
Just once in a while, but you're okay.
Okay. All right. Good. I couldn't find that poll. I did look. If you could send that to me, I'll have a look.
Max, it is 10 o'clock, and I expect my young lady in now, so I'm going to have to abandon ship. Are you able to take control of the television set?
Yes, I'm already the controller of it at the moment. Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, look, it's very, very. I'm sorry I was late with you this morning, but it's been very good to chat to you, and we've gone over a number of things that I think are important to our society. It is Friday this evening. We are going to cover the first of one of the Bonfire Society's big occasions at the town hall, and we look forward next week to building gradually to the great day, which comes 2 weeks on Saturday, I think, isn't it? And exciting times they are. Already, people are striding around the streets of Lewes in their striped jerseys. They are shaking tins to try and get some money for next year's fireworks. And they get into their secret huddles to see who they're going to burn as enemies of bonfire. So it's going to be an exciting week, I think, as we build up to it next week. So I shall say for the weekend, toodle pip, and I look forward to joining you and the rest of the team and our viewers on Monday morning.
All right. Well, I'll see you on Monday, and I will speak to you at exactly 11:30 as well. Okay?
Very well. Yes, that's fine. Okay. Talk to you later, Max.
All right. Talk to you later. Oh, there we go. Perfect timing. Melissa's just joined. She will be here in a minute, I guess. Oh, and Keith is gone. Well, let's just go to Grange Park whilst I try to sort this out. So here we go. Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
How are you? Happy Friday.
Yes, I'm good. I'm here all by myself today.
Wow. Where's the big guy? Where's the boss?
Keith is up in London for the day today. He's been there all week. I've been doing the show by myself all week.
Wow. So why is he? What's he doing in London?
He's training people. I'm not sure what for. I keep forgetting what it is exactly. But he does lots of different training for new journalists. So I'm not sure what it is this time he's doing. But it's different each time. But how are you? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry I'm late. My cat was being a jerk this morning.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Keith was late this morning as well, so I had 25 minutes where I was talking to myself. It was strange. I've not done it before.
I guess you'll get used to it in this business.
I will eventually get used to it. But I just wanted to let you know I've been having some technical issues. So if I cut out at all, just glide over it. It'll be fine. Is that a picture of your cat on your mug?
No, this is Van Gogh cat. Van Gogh cat.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's cool. I like that.
I'm into art these days. So
yeah.
I'm trying to educate myself.
Well, we've been doing an art show recently with Sarah Fitch Hayes. I don't know if you've seen it at all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting Sarah, and I would love to have an art lesson. Oh, I'm coming in December, so that would be really lovely.
Yes, you are. When exactly in December are you coming?
December 1st.
December 1st.
Yeah.
Wow, so I'll get to meet you as well, maybe.
Yes, we'll finally get to meet in person. That sounds great.
Yeah, you were here at you were here recently, weren't you, as well? Not recently, but 5 months ago?
In June.
June.
Yeah.
How long were you here for? You were only here for a couple of days, weren't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
You were only here for a couple of days, though, weren't you?
In Lewes, yes.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I was.
All right. Well,
I spent some time in London and then in Guildford, and yeah.
I don't know if you've. Me and Keith have been talking today all morning. I don't know if you've seen the news
Yes.
of the UK politics.
Yes. She did not outlast the lettuce.
She did not outlast anyone. She's the shortest serving prime minister we've ever had, 44
Ooh.
days.
What a distinction. Ooh.
The previous person, the second shortest serving, was 100 days more than her.
But I think he
And
was sick.
huh?
Or he died, or wasn't
I
he?
I can't remember what his name was, but he was from the 1800s. He served about 150, 160 days, and the only reason he only served that long was because he died in office.
Right.
So, yeah, she's not done very well.
I don't think that she was wildly popular coming in, first of all. There was a lot of chaos. The Queen had just died. Well, I guess the Queen appointed her, essentially. Well, certainly gave her blessing.
Yeah. She was only voted in by 180,000 potential people, because Boris resigned. The Conservative Party members, so people who pay to be a member of the Conservative Party, then get to vote. And they voted in Liz Truss instead of Rishi Sunak. So only 180,000 people voted for Liz Truss, and out of a country of 64 million people.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a flaw with the system, some would say.
Yeah, I like our system better.
Yeah. Well,
There's
I don't
some
know if you've heard.
inefficiency, certainly, but we really do get to pick. We get
Yeah.
to pick our so-called parliament, which is Congress, but then we also get to pick, the president. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess through an electoral college, but it's.
Oh,
Well, I mean, there's some times when there's a little bit of discrepancy between the popular vote and the electoral college vote, but not often. But yeah, it's more direct. But I'm going to say this right. I'm going to say this right off the bat, just so that you know where my sentiments lie. I am all for Boris coming back. I don't know why they got rid of him.
Absolutely.
Rishi, I don't know. Former hedge fund trader, and his claim to
Yes,
fame.
I do not trust him whatsoever. There's some interesting facts that isn't really known by the public.
I don't trust him. First of all, his wife lied about her tax status. She agreed to give up that non-domicile tax status, which she did not do. Okay, that's dishonest. I'm sorry, dishonest. And his claim to fame is that he predicted that Liz Truss's plan was going to go down. Well, I did too. Okay, when it came out, I did too. You're going to make me prime minister?
So did everyone.
Ridiculous. Oh, and he has the answer. Please. I had the answer too. Please, it was obvious to everybody. Liz was living in a bubble.
Well, all politicians are, so whoever we're going to elect next, it will not be a good choice.
She was truly in a bubble. I mean, the big corporate banking, all those tax cuts, this was not the time for that, if ever, really.
Yeah.
It's that idea of trickle-down economics. Well, Ronald Reagan tried that too. It doesn't trickle well, okay?
No.
It doesn't. The rich don't trickle. That's why they're rich, okay? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Liz, I'll let you know where my politics lie first. I come from a fairly conservative family. I'm quite conservative myself, even though I'm a very young person. I'm only 18 years old. But I lost faith in Liz Truss when she U-turned on every decision she made. Every decision she made, she U-turned on. And the big one, which was the biggest mistake, and unbelievable how you can even make this mistake, she cut taxes but rose spending.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I do my budget, I wouldn't do that. I'd end up going in incredible amounts of debt, which is what she basically was going to do with you. You're already in trouble. I'm not going to make it worse. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, the difference between conservative in Britain and conservative here, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay. You're almost like a moderate Republican, moderate Democrat here. You're like in the middle,
Yeah.
a conservative.
Slightly
Whereas
left.
Labour,
The Conservative Party, yeah, a slightly right of centre.
yeah, I would say that. That's kind of you know, in our my American point of view, what the conservatives do here is it's very much tied right now to religion. You know, if you're not a Christian, you got to have a lot of trouble in our conservative party. I don't know. You're not supposed to take a stand. The government does not take a religious stand in the United States. Anyway, and then our conservatives in terms of fiscal, it used to be that they would be for a balanced budget. But the conservatives now are more concerned with starving the government.
With more concerned with what, sorry?
Starving the government. They don't like
okay.
big government. It's a philosophy. They don't like big government, and their idea is to starve the government of revenue through tax cuts and, you know, spending of any social programs or any social safety nets. You all have an NHS, and yeah, you all like to complain about it. That's fine. We all complain about our own countries. But imagine not having it.
Yeah, I don't really know what that's like.
All of you need to sit and imagine not having it. And then what do? You have $1 million to pay for cancer treatment? Not everybody has that. And
Most people don't.
Yeah, so if I had lost my job right now, I would not have health insurance. I'd have no insurance. And if you go to the private sector to get insurance with a private company, it would cost me $2,000 a month just for premiums, not for care. It's insane. So there's but this is the way our conservatives are. They don't even want the elderly to have government-backed. It should be a single-payer system like you have, because that's certainly when it comes to life and death. That's healthcare, right? We all need it's an insurance pool. You all come together and you all help somebody when you're sick, because when you're sick, you want the help too. That's not how things go here. It's not. Oh, you're on your own. Really? Come on. And then, then are also the national pension. They want to privatize that too. Privatize. What does privatize mean? It means profits. Now, profits are fine in certain sectors, right? But in healthcare, if I have to have some insurance company that's deciding for me whether they're going to pay for a cancer treatment or not based on their profits, are you serious? No, it's the wrong sector to put a profit motive in healthcare. That's somebody's life.
So what I hear a lot is that, say for example, diabetes medicine that can cost thousands in the US, but then you go to Mexico and it can cost like $1. That doesn't make sense to me. Why that? Is that true? That's what I hear a lot.
Well, I think what it boils down to is it's that profit motive. It's, you know, it's the treatments are expensive. They charge so much for it. When you have a single payer system, right, like your NHS, they're only gonna give you this much, and that's it. But with us, it's profit. So that's why you have it. And it's not that we don't have good health care when you can afford it here, but you know, I mean, I pay $500 a month, and I have an employer.
$500 a month for healthcare.
That's not for the care. That's for the premium on the insurance.
What is the premium then? Could you explain it to me so I understand a little bit better?
Premium is like you pay tax, right? You pay a certain tax for your health care system, right? Yes. So this is essentially it's an insurance policy. Essentially, it's an insurance policy for healthcare. So I pay into a pool, but it's a private pool. It's a private company, and so we all, just like you all pool your money to pay for healthcare, we're pooling our money to pay for healthcare, but we pay to a private company. We don't pay to the government. We do have a government program for the very, very poor, very inadequate, and for the elderly. But that kicks in when you're 65. You have to wait till you're 65 to have government sponsored, the government health care.
The children get free healthcare?
No, not free unless you're very, very poor, and that means you can't have assets above, I think, $10,000. So
Right.
if you've got, I don't know, a home, if you have a modest amount of assets, no, you have to pay for it through either your employer or you have to go on your own to an insurance company. And then
if you lose your job,
you pay out, or you just pay out of pocket. So you go to the doctor. Let's say you have an accident, and the ambulances are there. They're taking you to the hospital, and you don't have insurance, and you're not desolate and poor. That $50,000 that it's going to cost to repair your legs is got to come out of your pocket. You got to pay for that yourself if you don't have insurance.
$50,000.
Yeah, it could be something like that if you're in an accident, depending on your injuries. Sure, that's what it would cost.
So you have healthcare.
I do through my employer.
For your employer. Does it still cost you money if you were to get in an accident and an ambulance come?
It depends on. It's covered, but there may be some expenses that aren't covered.
Right. Have you ever had an ambulance ride in your life?
My father did, and it cost him $800.
What? Did he have
just for the ambulance? Like for example, I had a little skin tag on my nose, and I had them take it off, and it's routine that they send it to a lab for cancer, detection. It's just routine. There wasn't any, but it was just routine. That cost me $500 out of my pocket. The insurance company didn't pay for that. Yeah,
what does it pay for then?
It's absolute. If the insurance company deems that it's not necessary, then you pay for it. I had my ears cleaned out and checked, and I had to pay $130 above the $500 I pay every month. See, in Britain, this is just unheard of. But you got to be very. The conservatives have to be very careful, because if you start eating into the NHS, you're going to have a system like we have, which is not a system at all. You're on your own.
We are incredibly wasteful with the NHS. 50% of the NHS staff are administrators.
Yeah, anything can be improved. Yeah, there's too much administration and not enough care. I understand that. And that has a tendency, that happens here in universities, for example. Too much administration, not enough professors. So it happens. I get it. But imagine not having it.
Yes, I can imagine that. But it does annoy me when people say, oh, we have free healthcare.
Well, it's not free, certainly.
I know. People just assume, oh, it's free healthcare. You go there and it's free. It's not free.
It's paid through your taxes.
No, but in this country, you do have to pay for prescriptions.
Well, I do too.
Well, that's not covered, strangely enough. It covers when you're 65 and over, because that's retirement age, and 0 to 18. It's covered.
Right.
And there's two others if you're on universal credit, or if you're a vulnerable person, so you have some sort of learning difficulty.
Right. I mean, I'll just to relate a little story about my father. He was on Medicare, which is and that's another thing. The conservatives, what they did was they are trying to get the elderly off of the government-sponsored elderly care called Medicare. They're trying to get them off of it and put it onto private insurance. Okay, once again, profit motive. Okay, the insurance company's got to pay their CEOs and shareholders. Okay, and something called Medicare Advantage, which is really deceiving. So seniors sign up for it, right? And then they don't get to go to the hospitals and the good doctors. They get the garbage because, the insurance companies have to take their cut, right?
Right.
So you either have Medicare, which is the government, or Medicare Advantage. It's their way of moving seniors off of the government and onto, well, first of all, the government subsidizes the private insurance companies with that. So it's, and then they want to do that with our national pension called Social Security. They want to give it to Wall Street to manage. I work on Wall Street. You're going to pay some serious fees. I mean, bad move. That's I know all about the hedge funds and all that other stuff. That's my business. I deal with that. So anyway, it's not a system. It's ridiculous. It is. When you shouldn't be putting, see, your NHS doesn't necessarily put a profit motive. Who's profiting from NHS? Unless you go into private consultants and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Well, I'll tell you something about our NHS. I twice had to go to private healthcare, even though my family absolutely could not afford it. They had to, because this was once before COVID even happened. I had to have surgery done on my foot, and it was a 6 months waiting list, and I couldn't walk. So my mum said, right, that's it. We're going to have to go private healthcare. And instead of the NHS 6 month waiting list, I had, after I walked it, I was just a walk-in, didn't phone beforehand, just went into the clinic and said, I have an issue, need surgery done. And they saw me within 3 hours and got me into surgery within 3 hours. It happened on the other foot. The same happened on the other foot during COVID. This was beginning of 2021. The waiting list was almost 2 years. So again, we went to private healthcare and we were seen within 3 days.
So how much is your private healthcare every month?
We didn't pay monthly. We just walked in.
You paid out of pocket?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
So
if
it was 600.
Out of pocket, it's out of pocket. Private insurance is insurance that you would pay premiums on every month.
Right.
Right. So you'd go to a company like we have a couple of them. I have Cigna, and then I have to pay them $500 a month. And that's not for care. That's not for care. That's just to give it to the insurance companies so they'll pay for care. So hopefully they'll pay for care.
My surgery.
Hopefully
my surgery cost me $300 each time, £300. That's about $380, I guess, each time. And it didn't go up during COVID either. It was the same price both times.
How about $3,000 here? Not kidding. Or more.
If you were to just be a walk-in with no insurance.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. It truly can be. It's just insane. I mean, I'll give you a funny example. No, it's not funny. I'll give you an example. My father, when he signed up for the senior care, right, Medicare, you also have to pay like $33 a month for insurance for prescriptions. But you had to do that when you were 65. If you don't, then you end up paying a much higher premium later on. And he never did it. So he's 92. He has Medicare, so he had an excellent doctor fix his eyes, had cataracts, had surgery for glaucoma. And he needed these little bottle of drops, right? But he didn't have prescription insurance. The little bottle of drops cost him $500.
For eye drops.
Yep. It's astronomical here.
Even in private healthcare here, I'm sure that would be free. Because I'm going back to that same surgery in a couple months because the issue recurred on the same foot. They said, if it happens again, it's our mistake. come back, we'll fix it for free. So I've got to go back there, and it'll be free this time because they messed up a bit, but it's taken a year and a half for it to show up. But anyway, yeah, it'll be free next time I go to the private healthcare clinic.
Well, and another example with me is if I wanted to go to a doctor, a new doctor, I have to wait till April. Just
For
a
what?
checkup.
Sorry, say that again.
I have to wait till April just for a checkup.
If you were to book one now.
I mean, yeah, and there's also waiting here too. If there's immediate care that you need, then there's no waiting because you need immediate care. You're in trouble. But for a regular appointment, it could take 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my appointment would have taken me a year and a
You know?
half. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous waiting times, and they blame it all on COVID. I don't think it is all on COVID. I think a lot of it is, but I think, at least here, we have an incredibly inefficient bureaucracy in the NHS.
We also had a really excellent COVID response. And I credit a lot of that is when you're dealing with COVID, you need a lot of data. You need to know where the problems are. You need to know what's happening. And because you have an NHS, you had the data. We didn't have data here. We didn't even know what was going on. We didn't know where the outbreaks were. You know, you had to go to the insurance company, maybe the hospitals. There was nothing cohesive here. So that's why a lot of times we had the miserable response we had. You know,
Yes,
you had an excellent, you and Israel really stole the show. You really had.
Well, Israel didn't do very good, but I don't think we did either. We were the first
compared to the
country
rest
in
of
Europe.
the world. I think it's compared to the rest of the world. Our response was terrible. Europe, forget about it. You know.
I don't know. I guess it's kind of controversial, but I don't think you had a bad response. I think you left it up to the president at the time said it's a state issue. We're leaving it up to the states. I'm not going to make a decision for the entire country. Was that not what was said?
It's absurd because you have a pandemic. You can't make a decision. Why are you there? Why do we need you if you can't make a major decision for the country? Really? We don't need you.
It was a state's issue. I mean, I liked that it was a state.
It shouldn't have been a state's issue. That particular issue, if people are dying, that's not an issue. But what the problem was, the way the administration at the time started, they called it a Democratic hoax. COVID was a Democratic hoax until they saw the refrigerator trucks in New York City taking bodies in. Then they kind of realized, oh, we might have a problem here. Yeah.
I had a couple members of my family.
I lost 6 friends and family to COVID. Don't tell me it was a hoax.
6?
I had COVID. I can't tell me that was a hoax. That was horrible. Horrible.
You know, I never actually had COVID.
I had COVID in January of 2020, before they knew it was COVID.
January?
It was COVID. Yes.
What?
My son brought it back from Germany.
What?
He was so sick, I had to bring him to the hospital. I didn't know what it was. We thought it was the flu. That was the most painful flu. It was very, very painful. I was literally almost in tears. It was so painful.
Was that the only time you had COVID?
It was COVID because we ended up with antibodies. We tested for antibodies and we knew there was something wrong because we couldn't taste or smell for 2 weeks after. We did not know what that was. That was crazy. But then they didn't.
So you were like,
what?
Within the first 100 patients.
We didn't know what it was though. They didn't know. The doctor said it was the flu.
That is ridiculous. Oh my goodness. I thought
just
my
didn't
mum
know.
caught it early. She is a
didn't know.
nurse.
Yeah.
She's a nurse,
Yeah,
so she caught it in January, February, March. Which was like the first week of lockdown. And it was when we didn't have PPE, and she went into a customer's house who they suspected had COVID, but they didn't have the tests at the time. And he coughed directly into my mum's mouth. And would you know, she got COVID.
Oof.
But Christmas Day, everyone got COVID again. We had 6 people in the house at the time. 5 of us had COVID. No, 4 of us had COVID. And me and my mum were the only ones who didn't, because she had already had COVID, so she had the antibodies. I have never had COVID. I've never tested positive. Just never had it. I don't know how. I'm not exactly at peak health, so I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, it's a
And this was
viruses
before.
are strange things. You can't see
Yeah,
them.
this was before the vaccine as well.
Yeah.
Well, Christmas wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah, healthcare is a thorny issue. It's a difficult issue. It's not perfect, but you know, I just believe in single payer when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah, no,
Because
I agree.
because single payer, you think about it, those administering it, those who are the leaders of those systems, unlike the private insurance companies, so you have both, right? You have the government and then you have the private. You're not paying the government people that much. You're paying the private insurance company CEOs millions, and the executives very high salaries, very high bonuses, and then the shareholders, you got to pay them dividends. So that's where a lot of the money goes. It's not, you don't have this system where, okay, you've got government officials not making that much. So most of that tax money is going to go to, hopefully go to your care. But as you say, a lot of it's administration, which should be fixed, right? Or nonsensical private consultants. Once again, private means profit. Whenever they say private, it's profit. They're making profits. The government officials aren't really making profits over you. They just get a salary. They're salaried. They just get a salary. You know, I know our government salaries aren't that high.
Well,
you know?
I would like to move on from this topic, and I want to ask you a question. Because I've mentioned it to you before that I wanted to have a proper conversation about it. This is a good chance. It's just me and you. Do you own a gun? Am I right in thinking that?
Yes.
You do. How do you feel about gun rights in America too? Wow. Okay. How do you feel about gun rights in America, especially living in the city?
I live outside the city.
Just
I
outside,
think
okay.
when you have a very dense population, you have to be careful, you know, as opposed to maybe someone out in rural America, right? You know, it's tough because when you own a gun, it's a huge responsibility, and not everybody takes that responsibility seriously because you can kill somebody. I mean, it's meant for defense, right? But I do like the idea of having that defense. You know, I mean, honestly, it's not only just against the criminals, right? It's also against government intrusion, right? There's also this idea in the back of a police officer's mind, in the United States anyway, that if I do something stupid, like I bust the door down for no reason, I might get shot. So they're going to be thinking about it twice. When a populace is armed, the government has to be careful. So there's a little bit of hesitation in terms of taking over the populace because they're all armed, right?
Yeah.
If a government takes away all of your weapons, you're really at the mercy of your government. So in that respect, I think that's really what the founders of our country were thinking.
Yes, I try to explain that exactly how you put it so often to people in this country, and they don't understand that if all the guns go, the government has all the power. People complain about the government in this country so much. What, you want the government to be the only ones to own guns? That's ridiculous.
Right. So in that respect, yeah. I mean, in terms of so we'll get down to the problems that you see in this country with the mass shootings.
Yes.
Right. A lot of times, the people who get a hold of these guns and have become the mass shooters have a lot of problems already. They don't just one day buy an AR-15 and go and, you know, mow everybody down in a store. They have had past records with the police, but a lot of the records are not coordinated, right? There's no coordination system. They need to strengthen that to make sure that an unstable 18-year-old who's had, like, for example, the Florida shooter in Parkland when he shot up all those kids, right? He was called, his mother called the police 36 times on him, but he still was able to go to a gun shop in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and buy all those weapons. Why? That's what you see time and again with these shooters. They have problems they have records. They have whether school records of domestic violence or something that was off.
And
There's
a lot of
warning
these
signs. They didn't just one day all of a sudden go crazy. They'll put manifestos online. They'll tell everybody they're going to go and shoot up a school, and nobody does anything. That's the problem.
I mean, how often do you hear about them uploading videos to Facebook or YouTube saying, "This is what I'm going to do," and then they go do it. Oh, how did we couldn't have guessed?
There's no red. Like we all as a country in the United States have to kind of come together and say, okay, we need to report that. That's crazy. We just recently, I think it was a 15-year-old went into a school, and I think in North Carolina, and shot up a bunch of people. 15-year-old. But the parents are saying there was no warning signs. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
That's absurd. Maybe because they didn't want to see it. Sometimes parents don't want to see that their child is that trouble. I understand. But still, you got to make sure that child is not going to be in danger to himself and others.
I know a lot of people who I used to go to school with. I've only just come out of it. But a lot of people I used to go to school with, I thought, oh yeah, if we had guns in this country, they would certainly shoot up this school.
So
many people like that.
We have to just be more vigilant as a country here. And another thing, if you're a parent, you have a gun, maybe you don't have it locked up in your drawer, and your 2-year-old comes out and then shoots his playmate, who's responsible for that?
The parent, obviously.
Who should be responsible for the death of that playmate? I don't know. I think it should be the parents.
Definitely.
When you have a gun, as I said in the very beginning, it is a very big responsibility. You got to take that responsibility seriously.
How long have you owned guns for?
My guns are in a locker, locked. And a lot of them, I have an antique gun my father purchased. It's like it's a Winchester, the kind of gun that was like in the movies, in the Western movies, And so I'll give that to my son who's going into the military. But I'm also considering purchasing a Ruger Mini. I live in an apartment, and you have to also be very mindful about walls and, is the gun appropriate for where you are for home defense? So there's a lot of thought that has to be into that, and you have to know how to operate it, take care of it, take it apart, put it together. You have to be an expert. You're going to shoot your foot. You know what I'm saying? You have to be careful with this stuff.
Yeah.
So for example, like a pistol for me, that'd be hard to control. It's hard to control a pistol. It's much easier to control a rifle. So I don't know how much you deal with guns.
I've only ever shot 1-2 guns.
Yeah. So I mean,
most people have never even seen a gun in this country.
Wow. I mean, you don't have a lot of the crime that we have.
No, you're wrong about that.
Yeah. So
you're wrong about that. I'm sorry, but we in this country hear a lot about how gun violence is on the rise in America. Do you hear the same thing about knife crime being on the rise in the United Kingdom?
Knife crime.
Because at one point, London surpassed New York in knife crime.
Knife crime compared to gun crime. A knife compared to an AR-15.
But we don't have AR-15s in this country, so...
I mean, what's going to do more damage?
Probably.
Gotta be careful. We as a country have to be careful.
So want to
So
say
I
this.
do,
This will
I
be the
kind of understand the other side. I do,
hmm,
but from as a homeowner, home defense, somebody, listen, if someone's coming into my house, breaking into my door, they're not coming in to have a glass of wine with me. Okay. They're coming in to harm me, and they're not going to leave. They're not going to leave.
So I think this will be the first time I mention it on Mirador, but with knife crime, I did witness something. I think the beginning of September this year. I was at the train station waiting for the train, and I watched a machete attack happen.
Mm.
2 children were attacked with a machete by another child, and I was unfortunately the only witness.
Wow.
They were all younger than me. They were 16, 15 years old. This was at Worthing, which I thought was a nice old people retirement place. No,
It
no.
could happen anywhere. It could happen anywhere.
Can. And I mean, I've I've grown up in a small village all my life with less than 3,000 people, so I am not used to seeing something like that. I mean, I reported to the police. They turned up. I've never been so scared in my life. This was a machete. I don't know if you've ever seen a machete. I hadn't until this point. They're like over a foot long.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
My father
I
had
got out
my
of there
father had
so
knives.
quickly.
My father had a knife collection as well.
Oh, really?
But yeah, you get these teenagers, these young kids, and they're just angry,
The kids.
and they'll take anything to hurt someone and lash out at someone.
Yeah.
So
I
sad.
I reported it to the police and nothing's come of it. So they took the security footage, they took all my statements, but the people who were attacked didn't go to the hospital. They weren't attacked enough to need proper medical care, and they wouldn't. They did. I think they found one person. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's an ongoing case. But the person didn't talk, so the case is basically a dead end because they're
But if you have
chavs. I don't know if you know anything about
cameras?
chavs in this.
Was there
Huh?
video? Was there video?
Yes. Yes. But it
Like,
was
could
dark.
you-
It was probably about 7:30, 9 at the time. Weirdly, I just got off the phone to Keith before this happened. That there were cameras, but it was it was West Worthing train station, which you don't even need a ticket to get in because of how rural it is. It's a small train station. But I just didn't expect to see something like that. And I don't know if you know what a chav is.
No.
So what chav stands for is Council House and Violent. These are a group of people in this country, chavs. They're probably the group of people I hate the most, but they're awful people. Unfortunately, I've grown up around some.
Yeah, so exactly what
They're
is
very
that?
violent. Pardon?
They're just what kind of people are they? They're violent. They're into violence. They're into.
They grew up in council houses, which is what's known as the projects in your country. So rough neighborhood people, just not nice.
So like gangsters here or gangs? Is that what
They,
that
they
is?
call themselves gang members, but it's sad. It really is sad that it's based on your postcode or zip code for you. So whatever postcode you're in, you're a part of that gang. And a lot of the times it's just very sad. They just carry around knives and machetes and all sorts. They're just they listen to a specific type of music and they just dress a specific way. You can always tell who's a chav and who isn't. But yeah, they're just not nice.
Well, it's interesting because I was a teacher. I loved it. I really loved it. And it was I had some rough schools. Some very rough schools in those, project areas. And there were in the high school, when I taught at the high school, they had gangs called the Bloods, the Latin Kings, and I knew the gangs. I knew the students. They were my students, and I treated them all like my children. So there would be times when I would have to make sure if I heard word there was going to be a knife fight, I had to do things to stop it. Or the girls are terrible. They take when they take their earrings off, you know they're about to get into a girl fight. And so when I would see them doing that, you know, they're in there, they're all taking, I was like, what? Stop, ladies, right now. I mean, they used to call me mommy. No, mommy, you got to stay out of this. No, I'm not staying out of this. Because no one's going to jail today. Okay.
What?
Okay. So, yeah, I've broken
We
up.
have a lot of rough areas in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's strange because where I live, it's a council-run area. The street I live in is owned by the council, and the same street. So you go up the street, and it divides like that. You got one way, that's where I live, and it's council, and the other way is a private road. One is very poor, one is very rich. So where I live, it's very, very poor. Most people can't get by. I'm struggling to pay their bills. But the other street, my neighbor owns a helicopter.
So
it's a part of the, so I live at house number 25, but house number 7, I think, I don't know, I can't remember. But for example, house number 7 or 8, they own a helicopter. So it's weird. That happens a lot in the UK.
Wow.
It's
You'll see that in New York City, like one block as opposed to another block.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, you'll see that in New York City too. But,
which is why it's you can never really tell where people grow up, because so where I live was council, it still is council, but I grew up around a lot of rich people and a lot of well-off people who taught good values. But so I got values from them, but a lot of their kids get values from the council areas, what is known as the projects in the US. So it's very close, and it gets strange because you can never really tell where people are from.
Wow. That's interesting. You know, it's almost, I was about to discuss this. It's in a good way, it's very good that you had that influence. And the reason I say that is that certainly, Mike, if you think you're poor, if you're scared with money, you're scared of it, you think money is the root of all evil, you're just not going to have any.
No, I don't think that, but that's the mindset of the people where I grow up. Yes.
Right. This is why they stay the way they stay. This is why if a poor person were to win the lottery, they could end up poor again.
Almost all the time.
They don't have a good feeling about money. They don't feel that they feel that money's always leaving and going, and then it does. But it's very good that you were influenced, because you can take a very rich man who's been rich all of his life, and he could end up losing all of his money, but he'll know he'll gain it back, because in his mind, money's easy to come by. In his mind. So if that's your mindset, there's no stopping your success in terms of money.
I'm also very good with how I spend my money. So I'll tell you what my weekly money is, like what I sort out weekly. I have my wallet, and on a Monday I put £50 in cash in there, because I only use cash. Never use my card. Don't trust it. Anyway, I use cash.
I do too. I'm a cash person. I was just, a friend of mine was kind of giggling at me because I took out cash instead of the card. I like being anonymous. Of course, I'm on YouTube.
Exactly. My wallet, I don't know if you can hear, but it's just full of change as well. So what I do is I put £50 in it. That gets me a weekly ticket on the bus for 30. Then I have £20 to spend on food and drinks when I'm at work over the week. And if I have enough money at the end of the week, if I have, I think, £5.50 left over at the end of the week, I can buy a pack of 4 Budweiser, and that would be my treat for the end of the week if I spend my money correctly.
You drink Budweiser? You drink
Huh?
Budweiser?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, I really should not
Really?
drink so much. I love Budweiser is my absolute favorite.
Really? My
Yeah.
son makes beer. He made a Czech Pilsner. Fantastic. Fantastic. He's got a British bitter in the refrigerator. I know it's not supposed to be cold, but I won't drink beer if it's not cold.
No, neither will I.
And I think he's got another something else brewing. I don't know what he's brewing, but he's the home brewer, and it's just fun.
Yeah, it does sound
But
fun.
I actually end up drinking non-alcoholic Heineken. I know that sounds crazy, but you know,
It does.
I like to keep my mind straight, you know. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. What about the component of saving?
That is my saving. So I get
Well, I
200.
mean, literally saving and investing.
Oh, saving and okay. Well, I don't invest at the moment. I would like to learn how to, but saving at the moment, I get £200 a week, and I only spend 50. It's a little. I'm not doing very well with money at the moment. I've recently just got a girlfriend, so I'm spending a little bit more money than I used to. So I'm not saving as well as I
Well,
used to. But
congratulations on the girlfriend. That's great.
yeah, we've been together for about 2 months now, and I'm starting to notice my money is. I need to get back in that routine of not spending so much.
How about the two of you getting together as a force, as a wealth force, and working together? You have to also have somebody in your life who also has that wealthy mindset. Or
Yeah, she's very careful with how she spends her money.
Good. So now you're on the same page with money, because a lot of relationships break up because of money. So,
Yes.
but if you two are on the same page with it, that's excellent. Very good.
Yeah. I'm trying to convince her to go to cash instead of card, but both of us have to go into the city, Brighton, and
Right.
I don't know if you've been there recently, but there's a lot more homeless than there used to be, and it's a bit sketchy carrying around cash, but I prefer carrying around cash, and I'll show you
One
my.
other thing that I would say, and with cash, with a wealthy mindset, is the idea of being generous. Because when you are a generous person with money, even if it's a little bit, it is a feeling of, I have enough money for myself and I can give it away and be good to somebody. It's a feeling of I have abundance. I have wealth and I can help other people too. Even if it's a little bit. I'd start to also instill that as well. So saving and investing and generosity. Because the wealthy people that I know, they have foundations, they give money away, and it feels abundant. It feels wealthy. Because that's what you're trying to get at, Max. You're trying to get at the feeling of being wealthy rather than the feeling of being poor. Right?
Yeah.
You have to feel what it feels like to be wealthy. And being generous, even giving a homeless person $1 or a couple of dollars, it's a feeling of wealth. So that's another thing that I would instill in your plan. So, because I'm telling you, if you do these kinds of things, you may not know how or when, but that wealth is going to start flowing back to you. And that's another thing. That money is always coming to me. I always have enough money. That's a wealthy person's mindset, right? In addition to knowing how to save and invest. But it starts up here.
What is your reasoning for using cash?
Anonymity.
Yes.
Anonymity. And also, the other thing that I do, I have an envelope system. It is a way, because I have no debt. I don't do debt. I don't owe anybody anything. I'm free. I do not want to pay the bank's interest to build shiny new buildings. No, not doing that. So the only debt that I would suggest, or that maybe I might forgive, might be a mortgage. But the mortgage would have to be structured in a way where you put a lot down, and maybe you have a 15-year fixed rate mortgage. That's what we have here. 30 or 15. And I'd pay that thing off like my hair was on fire. I'd sacrifice, I got an extra job, and I paid it all off. And I don't own a credit card. Nope.
No, I don't either, and I won't get one.
Because it's so tempting, Max, to overspend, right? And you want to put your money where it works well for you, right? That generosity component, right? But if you're out, with your buddies and you have a credit card, hey, yeah, the drinks are on me. Oh, and then you can't pay the bill at the end of the month. You have to pay the bank's interest. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I recently got fined by the bank.
And then here's another thing, the cash back. Oh, see, I'm getting over on the bank. No, you're not. That's a way of encouraging you to spend more.
I'm getting over on the bank. Honestly.
The banks know you better than you know you.
Yes.
So don't get involved with them.
No, I try not to. I do have a card just so I can take money out of my account.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because you can't not have a card.
Right.
But I've got my bus ticket here. I pay 30 quid for it. It gets me on any metro or any Brighton and Hove bus from anywhere at any time, any place. For those two companies.
But this is what I'm saying is it's a feeling of I'm good.
A feeling of what?
It's a feeling of I'm good. I have money coming in. I always have money coming in. That's your feeling. That's what you want to feel. I can handle it. I know where my money's going. I tell my money where to go. Right? A poor person, it just leaves. So it doesn't matter how much money you have right now. It's about your feelings and your thoughts about money.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice to you.
Yeah, that's good advice.
I grew up in a place. My father did a very good job taking care of me. He was an orphan, came from nothing, but he was good with cars. He made a lot of money, but he still had that mindset that people steal, people take, money goes. So we ended up losing it. So that's all about up here, really. So anyway, that's my say on it.
Well, it's 10:59 already. It's time to finish. I mean, this conversation has flown by. Thank you so much. It's been nice to have a one-to-one conversation with you. I've asked lots of interesting. I hope I've asked lots of interesting questions.
Yeah, it was a great discussion. It was a really great discussion. Hopefully, somebody's learned something. Or
I hope that the people learn. Use cash. Use cash.
Yeah, it's a way of controlling your spending.
And you can physically see how much money you have as well.
Yes, and it's a good feeling to have that $100 bill in your hand. Boy, that feels good, right? That's wealth. That's a wealthy feeling, right?
It feels good, but I'm also nervous when I'm in Brighton. When I have up to 50 to £100 in my wallet, I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
I'm really.
But I would, seriously, I would also consider taking a couple of dollars, and if you see a homeless person that, give you a little help you a little bit. It's a wealthy mindset.
Well, I had a bad experience when I was young. I think I was 12 years old. I got mugged by a homeless person. So.
No. Well, yeah, you got to be careful. You got to kind of know where to put it. When I was in London, I stayed over by Tower Bridge. There was a homeless person that was so polite.
We have a lot of fat homeless people as well, which is weird.
Because they're probably eating junk. Potato chips and soda is very cheap. And they eat to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, that is real first world problems when you have fat homeless people.
Yeah. It's really more of a I'm feeling bad, so I'm going to eat to feel better.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. It is. Well, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a lovely conversation. I've got lots of interesting
answers. Have a wonderful weekend.
I will do, yes. And you. All right. Thank you, and I'll see you next week, hopefully.
Bye-bye, Max. Take care.
Bye. Okay, thank you very much for watching today with Mirador Television. We will see you again. I will see you again on Monday morning. Keith might be back in London. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find out at some point. So it might just be me again on Monday. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully Stuart will join me, or Liza, or someone will join me. Suzanne Mouchot will join me on a Monday, hopefully. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and thanks for putting up with me all by myself. Thank you very much. And I will see you Monday, 8:30 in the morning. All right, goodbye.